Hello and welcome to the Headache Doctor podcast, where on this podcast, it's our mission to educate and empower everyone with headaches and migraines so that you can break free from a life of fear of your next headache or migraine and dependence on medication. In today's podcast, I wanted to get ultra practical for those of you that have been listening and have maybe come to understand the underlying reason for your headaches or migraines, or maybe the different dynamics around headaches or migraines, how we would diagnose headaches or migraines, or maybe I've talked specifically about your presentation of symptoms. What I wanted to do today is take sort of a broad perspective, but very practical, on three things that everyone with headaches or migraines, 3 steps that you should take to start improving your health and kind of lay the foundation for the healing that your body is likely needing. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll qualify this with, we're going to lay out 3 things that are just generally good for your health. Just know that if you take these action steps and make changes to your life, start implementing these 3 things. If you don't see changes, that doesn't mean that, one, that it's not a neck issue, that it's not fitting into our framework and how we look at things, or even that you're a problem, or that you're destined to just take medication, or that there truly is no hope. That's not what this means. I would not take the advice of anyone on a podcast, especially when it comes to headaches and migraines and on this podcast, and use it to evaluate or diagnose your own situation without a professional stepping into your reality and helping you understand what is best and unique for you. And so what I'm going to do is talk about general terms and what we see in general for our patients moving in the right direction, and 3 of the most common things that we are recommending that you can actually take action on today and potentially start seeing benefit from. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about is breathing through your nose. Now, if you've listened to this podcast for a while, you've heard breathing and airway specialists that we've interviewed. You've heard me talk to myofunctional therapists that are, in a sense, providing a physical therapy approach to restoring your lip seal, the position of the tongue, the swallow, things like that help with airway and breathing. And then you've also heard me talk to whether it's orthodontists or dentists that are specialists in understanding and restoring airway outside of maybe just a traditional CPAP that we think of when someone struggles with sleep apnea or airway issues at night. And so breathing through your nose. On this podcast, we've talked about the autonomic nervous system, the rest and digest, the fight or flight, those 2 different systems, and how oftentimes people are stuck in this fight or flight response. What we want to do is shift that towards the rest and digest parasympathetic nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system has the sympathetic, which is the fight or flight, and then parasympathetic. In that parasympathetic nervous system, in the state of the parasympathetic cycle being ramped up, we actually are able to heal and restore a lot of whether it's damaged tissue, or put our brain in a state where it can tolerate or at least try to ignore the pain that we're in. And that's also an environment. The parasympathetic nervous system puts us in a state of rest and digest. So we're able to get into deeper sleep and really let our body restore and heal. Okay. So if we're always in this sympathetic, if we're always dealing with this sympathetic tone of fight or flight, like we have tension, we have increased heart rate, we have our systems on high alert and very attentive to the pain signals that we're dealing with and the level of tension that we're feeling, it's really hard to heal. And so breathing through our nose is one simple way to do that. We've talked about nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator, and that's produced partly in the sinuses. And when it's produced in the sinuses, it allows our body to access that the benefits of the nitric oxide being a vasodilator and improving blood flow to the tissues that need it and stimulating healing. So breathing through our nose is how we get the benefit of nitric oxide, increasing the parasympathetic nervous system. We don't get that by breathing through our mouth, okay? We want to breathe through our nose so that we also are getting into a deep REM sleep. Okay. So at night, when you are sleeping, the quality of sleep is important. Oftentimes people will wake up and they won't feel rested. They'll feel like they're still exhausted. Okay, so you're not starting your day off right, especially if you have headaches in the morning. We want to look at sleep and understand the quality of sleep. Now, if you're not breathing through your nose at night and you're a mouth breather, maybe you wake up and your mouth is dry, or you've been clenching or grinding and you just wake up and you know your mouth was open, then that would be an indication that you're not getting that, you're potentially not getting into those deep REM cycles, because nasal breathing, producing that nitric oxide and a lot of the good benefits, allowing us to get into that parasympathetic nervous system state, we're missing that when we breathe through our mouth. The other potential detriment when we're breathing through our mouth is that you are very likely having to cock your head back and thrust your jaw forward. It's a compensation pattern that allows our mouth and the air coming into and out of our airway through our mouth to have less friction or resistance. And so you'll naturally cock your head back, and throughout the night you'll kind of thrust your jaw forward because your tongue might be falling back into your airway and you have to correct that. So some signs of this might be worn teeth, jaw tension, pain in the temples, things like that. Especially if you have a headache in the morning, it could be something with airway, okay? So what I want you to do is during the day, I want you to start breathing through your nose. All right, so if you can comfortably breathe through your nose for 5 minutes, that tells us you shouldn't have a substantial barrier, anatomical barrier that's preventing you from being able to breathe through your nose. And so whenever you, so at random times throughout the day, just stop and think, is my mouth open or is it closed? If it's open, you're breathing through your mouth. I guarantee it. You want your lips to be sealed outside of talking or maybe at moderate to higher intensity exercise. So pretty much throughout the day, you should be breathing through your nose, lips sealed, okay? If you stop and you think about the position of your mouth, if your lips are open, you're breathing through your mouth, okay? So just remind yourself, lips sealed. And then at night, you can potentially try something like mouth taping, or even just using a breathe right strip or something to open up your nasal passage so that you can more easily breathe through your nose. There's also, it's been recommended to me to use xylitol spray. It's one of the brands out there is called Clear, spelled with an X. And if you utilize this spray, it will basically act as like a decongestant and clear up your nasal passages. And I've heard dentists that focus on the airway recommend people using that almost on a daily basis, essentially. So I would, if you have an airway issue, I would obviously consult with an airway specialist, less so the specialist that's going to put you on a CPAP and more so the holistic type of provider. And that's something that we evaluate and look for here, and it definitely a major component of our framework that we want to understand. But there's probably some low-hanging fruit and things that you at home can just take advantage of today. And just think about, do I breathe through my mouth during the day, at night, and what can I do to help breathe through my nose so that I can get deeper sleep and get myself out of that sympathetic response, the fight or flight response, and into the rest and digest state. So that's number one. Number two also has to do with sleep, and this is sleep position, okay? Now, even if you have headaches during the day or that pop up in the afternoon, the position that you sleep in is important because the tension you have when you wake up is either going to trigger a headache or a migraine in the morning or put you in a sort of precarious state where you're more prone to developing it in the afternoon, late afternoon. And oftentimes those late afternoon headaches are kind of the tension type headache, the band in the forehead presentation. But especially if you wake up with headaches, I want you to think about the position you are sleeping in. If you are a stomach sleeper, you automatically should know that that is not okay and you're adding tension to your neck. So think of it this way. The upper part of the neck is likely dealing with restrictions. It can't move the way it wants to. And then when you sleep on your stomach, you're having to turn your head about, 80, 90 degrees, as far basically as it can, rotate in order to be able to breathe, okay? So your head and your neck in that amount of rotation puts quite a bit of stress through the neck. Now, it might feel comfortable in a sense where like, oh, it's comfy and I can fall asleep. But ultimately, it's the stress that's placed on your neck over that long period of time is really detrimental and hard for your neck and your body to overcome. And so you might feel like, okay, I'm like, I slept well, I was comfortable, like there's not a problem here. But I'm telling you, there is an issue. And so if you have headaches or migraines, even if it doesn't feel connected, I would suggest you stop sleeping on your stomach. So we recommend side sleeping with additional pillows. So hug a pillow, put one in between your knees, have a good foam pillow for under your head. And side sleeping is a little bit higher maintenance because we do want all three pillows to be in position so that you're supported. I don't want you drooping forward or kind of rotated. Halfway on your stomach is not okay. Halfway on your stomach, we call it the pseudo stomach sleeping position, meaning you think you're a side sleeper, but you're really twisted and having a similar impact as to the stomach sleeping position. Okay, and then sleeping on your back is generally okay. If you have a form of sleep apnea, if you're breathing through your mouth at night, it might be harder on your airway. And so sometimes when people have airway issues, we have them sleep on their side. But if you don't have an airway issue, you're able to breathe through your nose comfortably. Sleeping on your back is going to be the best position for your neck. Okay, so sleep position. Once you breathe through your nose in the day and at night, I want you to sleep in a good position. And then during the day, I want you to do a low level of exercise or movement throughout the day. Okay, so the idea is to try to avoid sitting as much as possible and do a low level of exercise throughout the day. There's a principle at Mayo. I've talked about this before on the podcast, but it's non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So basically, you are doing a low level of activity throughout the day, and we see a ton of benefits, both on like if it's going to be weight loss or just physiological health, your overall health, cardiovascular system. And so this is true also for the neck and the shoulders. So if you're looking to manage tension, manage it by moving and a low level of movement throughout the day. Now, the reason I say low level is that higher levels of activity and intensity can potentially stress the neck and the shoulders out to a point where it feels potentially like a negative, okay? So a negative meaning you might feel okay during, but then after it's like, oh, my neck is super tight or I have a headache the next morning, that sort of thing. So there's a level of function that your shoulders, function and stability that your shoulders and your neck need to be able to handle in order to jump into like higher level exercise or specifically weight training or resistance training. Sometimes people have issues with running or biking or swimming. And so repetitive activities can also be troublesome for people. When you're thinking about exercising though, and you're just getting into it, like walking is a fantastic way. It's very low impact and something that can be done for most people relatively accessibly. And so walking, if you can find ways to incorporate walking into your day, that would be fantastic. Even standing and being on your feet is better than sitting. All right. So standing's better than sitting. Walking's better than standing. We just want a low level of movement throughout the day to keep our shoulders and our neck happy. If you can get a moderate intensity exercise in for at least 90 minutes, then we start getting into whether it's cardiovascular effects or the pain relieving effects, similar to if you were actually taking a migraine medication. And so 90 minutes of moderate intensity exercise. So this would be like getting your heart rate up enough where you can't necessarily carry on a conversation anymore. So an exercise like that for 90 minutes, and we can get a lot of good benefits. Now, the qualification of that is one, we work with a lot of people that just aren't able to because their pain is daily and intense and they just are not able to exercise, okay? If you're able to exercise, I would encourage you, and you're not, I would encourage you to incorporate and try to hit 90 minutes at least of moderate intensity exercise throughout the week. So that could be cardio, that could be weight training or like a HIIT type program, but just know that you want to keep the reps and the weights to a manageable level. So you want to be able to do the rep, like don't go too fatigued and then your form gets all out of whack and you start compensating, because that's when we really stress out the shoulders and the neck. But incorporate some moderate intensity exercise and then low-level movement throughout the day. And that's the third thing that I would recommend to just about anyone with headaches or migraines. All right? So just to recap, breathe through your nose, both during the day and at night. Find ways to troubleshoot if you are not breathing through your nose. I want you to focus on sleep position. Make sure that your sleep position is what it should be. If you've listened to this podcast for a while and you've heard me say that, and you haven't actually changed your sleep position, I'm telling you, it has a big impact on just about everyone's scenario. And so do not overlook it. And then the third thing is movement. Incorporate movement when you can throughout the day. You may have a desk job. You may have a scenario where you're just busy. I can't really do the movement that I want or the exercise I want. Just control what you can control and incorporate the movement where you can. And especially if you're limited by the debilitating pain you're dealing with, when you feel up to it, just go on a short walk or a slow walk. Just give your body some movement and it'll thank you for it down the road. Okay, so there's the three general things, practical things that I want everyone listening to this podcast to try to incorporate into their life. Now, again, like I said, what you need is someone to specifically hear your story and speak into your situation so that you know you're on the right track. Now, if you're someone who's been dealing with headaches or migraines, even for decades, and you feel like no one has been able to answer these questions or give you hope, and you're just stuck taking medication, this podcast and Novera Headache Center was built specifically for you. As you probably heard at the beginning of this podcast, we have 3 avenues that you can take. Now, step 1 would potentially be buying the SAM device. Now, that as a standalone, just purchase, try it on your own. That can be okay. Ideally, what we want you to do is be a part of our coaching, our virtual coaching, if you're out of state. That way we can coach you on how to use the SAM device and then all the other avenues that you can utilize as far as self-care. And then if you are in state, or if you're able to get to Colorado, we want to see you in person so that we can use the full scope of what we're able to do and really knock these headaches or migraines out to an extent that you didn't think was possible. That's what we do all day, every day with people that never thought they'd be able to find this type of relief. And if that's you, I want you to reach out to us. You can call us at 719-598-1010 or go to our website and book directly from our website and the Book Now option. Thank you all so much for listening to the Headache Doctor podcast as we continue to educate and empower everyone with headaches and migraines so that you can break free from a life of fear of your next headache or migraine and dependence on medication. I'll see you next week.